The Tahm Kench rework is finally released on the PvE, and I couldn't be more excited about it. He looks great, he feels great, and it seems like he's much more resilient to chaos. I don't think he'll collapse immediately if the game gets disorganized anymore, which means he might be playable in solo queue again. My goal with this video is to give you a quick overview of the changes and share my thoughts on Kench's new abilities and how they should and should not be used. The biggest change is that Tahm Kench's W and R have been swapped. Devour is now on his ultimate and on a very long cooldown. It's still almost the exact same ability, which is fine because Devour could be as strong as an ultimate before. It still slows and grounds you, and it still can only be cast on enemies with passive stacks, but it's easier to get value from it because it shields allies, does more damage to enemies, and can't be misclicked on minions anymore. We'll come back to the skill expression of this ability once we understand the other changes. Abyssal Voyage has become Abyssal Dive on W, which has a much shorter range than it used to and can't bring anyone else along by default, but now has a knockup. Please do not use this to initiate for no reason. Tahm Kench is still a defensive champion, and nobody is going to get hit by this if you use it for no reason, because its channel is way too slow. It's very effective as follow-up engage, it's big enough to act as peel, and if the enemy has no ways to cancel channels, you can just walk up more aggressively than usual to trade and W out if you really want to. Passive and E are unchanged. Q is almost the exact same, but it now heals Kench for a percentage of his missing health and finally applies a stack of his passive again. It feels amazing. So how do you actually use these abilities together? If W can't just be thrown out and Devour is an ultimate, you do have a lot of decisions to make and a lot of interesting interactions to consider. Tahm Kench now has a situational CC chain almost as long as Morgana's Binding, but made entirely of stuns and knockups. Q's stun lasts as long as W's channel. This isn't reliable aggressively since you need to stack your passive, but it can be a devastating punish to overzealous divers. You might be sad that the extended Devour can't be done on minions or jungle camps anymore, but if that's the case, you'll be extremely happy to learn it works on champions now. If you're in a skirmish in which you can stack your passive and your opponent tries to run away, whoops, Kench is a hook champion in that moment. Finally, Kench may be grounded during Devour, but there is a special case. He can still cast W with a devoured ally. This means that there's still niche situations where you can commit your ult for a similar effect to his old ultimate, but more importantly, you can get your ally far away from danger if there's no channel cancels. Tahm Kench is still obviously a defensive champion, with his most aggressive and devastating options being punishes to enemy dives, so he still fills a very similar niche even without Devour as a basic ability. I still don't expect him to perform well into poke, but maybe he'll find some poke matchups he can punish with his new W if he lands his Qs slow. I think Rel's defensive counters will find value against the new Kench, especially Janna, but since Kench's W is even easier to cancel than Rel's, we'll find even more champions that perform well into Kench's mid-game. Really, nothing feels worse than trying to save an ally with RW and getting your channel cancelled, and that's not hard for the enemy to do, so try not to get into that situation. From my perspective, support Kench is the real winner with this rework, with top Kench not sounding super strong without access to enemy Devours frequently, and jungle Kench being completely dead. Sorry off-meta players. I'm very interested to see how Kench matchups change, and I am super excited to keep playing him on live servers.